Breakfast Business with Enterprise Ireland. Helping you plan for Brexit with our SME scorecard at prepareforbrexit.ie.
It is 6:41. This is Newstalk Breakfast Business, and Tom Barrett, who's director of Savills Hotel and Leisure, joins me now in studio. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Donald.
You've been running the numbers really on the pipeline of hotels coming on stream in Dublin in particular. Why, first of all?
Because it's quite an active area. It was nothing happening for 10 years effectively in the hotel development scene in Ireland, and now it's happening again. There's planning permissions and there's actually cranes over hotel sites in Dublin for the first time in nearly 10 years. And
I suppose what have you found really?
Found that it's very active. That has become from rising trade, rising capital values, lots of cranes in Dublin, but they're primarily office blocks. And that sector now has a good pipeline of supply coming through, offices opening and well under construction. And as that happens, the opportunities swing around to other sectors. Obviously, there's a huge need in residential, but there's also a large need for hotel supply in Dublin. As I said, nothing built for 10 years effectively, so we've got catch up to do. It's starting to happen. It's been slow, but there are hotels now coming out of the ground that will open in 2018.
2018, so next year?
Correct, yes. Virtually nothing this year. The only hotels this year are just little extensions. Less than 200 bedrooms added in Dublin this year, whereas in 2018 we would forecast up to about 1,500 bedrooms will open. Now, that will be half and half between new builds and extensions. So the extension to the existing hotel remains very important.
And presumably, if there's space to do it, it's cheaper because you don't have to have all of the ancillaries. You can just build bedrooms. Absolutely.
It's additional bedrooms, and those can be from 4 or 5 bedrooms through to extensions. One of the most recent was the Moor and Red Cow, well-known property, which added 152 bedrooms there at the end of last year. So that transforms that hotel.
There's been pressure certainly on, anecdotally, on the price of hotels in Dublin. A little bit of fear kind of creeping back certainly last year that competitiveness was being lost because of the squeeze on hotel rooms. How well can anyone, and you're probably the best person to ask, match demand to construction? How quickly can that happen, and how well can it be judged?
It takes time, and certainly for a new hotel it takes quite a number of years, probably 3 years, buy a site, get planning and build, and that's probably as fast as you'll do it. Extensions are quicker, and obviously there was the major decline in the industry. Hotel prices were very low in Dublin. Rooms were available at all times. Now it's more like a normal, call it good European city. We'd still be a lot cheaper than places like Amsterdam and Barcelona, but we trade in a market that's like with Copenhagen, etc. So we're in our kind of rightful place now, but we do need more bedrooms and we do need to add them, and that is starting to come through at probably the right pace.
In terms of the total design, you're looking at sort of 3,000 bedrooms by 2019.
Yes, there are planning applications and plannings granted for a lot more than that, and every day of the week there are new ones, but we would see the difficulty in getting finance and actually building them is still a challenge. So we think a number of about 3,000 will happen by 2020.
So it wasn't a question of you simply kind of totting up all of the plannings that are in?
Absolutely not, because they come to far more than 3,000. And there would be nervousness in the system sometimes about oversupply, because you go from undersupply to oversupply in a lot of industries. But the hotel business, I think there's a lot to do to open a hotel, finance being one of them, but certainly operating, etc. Investors like to build office blocks because you build it, you get a tenant, and it's dry investment, whereas a hotel needs operators, needs management, and there's a lot of complexity to it. So I think it's actually more difficult to open a hotel than build an office block.
And who is developing hotels now? Is it property developers? Is it finance houses? Is it hotel operators?
It's a combination. You've got Dalata building 2 hotels in the city. As I mentioned, Moran's opened a new bedroom wing. McGettigan's did similarly. You've got people like MHL Hotels and Tetrarch, new names in the industry, who are either adding bedrooms or building hotels. So it's a combination, but it's bringing the skills of hoteliers, developers, and the important part of finance to the equation.
And finance obviously is there to some extent.
It is, absolutely. I'm speaking at a conference later today. Irish Hotels Federation, AIB, Bank of Ireland will be speaking. They are funding the sector, but certainly it's not easy to get debt for development. It's still difficult. You need the right project and you need a lot of equity.
There was a sort of zombie hotels were the big feature 10 years ago that we would have been talking about. Hotels basically didn't have customers or had maybe balance sheets that were totally out of skew to their operating. Is that gone entirely now as a feature?
It's largely gone. Certainly, say in the Dublin market, you'd say it's pretty much gone. Around the country, there are still difficult cases, but the flow of tourists has been pretty well nationwide. Things like the Wild Atlantic Way, Ancient East, etc., have driven business to most parts of the country, and the likes of Cork, Limerick, Galway, Belfast have all shown strong recovery. So they're now at a viable state of the market, although it is still hard to build a hotel outside of Dublin.
Financially?
True.
Who is, you mentioned Bank of Ireland and AIB, are they the main backers now, or is it kind of international money?
Yeah, and Ulster Bank are certainly in the sector, so those three hotel banks are lending to the sector, but you do have specialised funding also, and a lot of that, and you've got mezzanine and different structures. It is more expensive though, and it tends to then make the project, call it more challenging. But there's certainly a lot of alternative lenders in the sector, and they certainly came in also to refinance people out of loan sales. So that's been a very interesting part of the sector.
You mentioned obviously about a 15% increase in the total number of hotel rooms in Dublin by 2019. That's essentially what you're looking at. How does that compare in the rest of the country? Are you seeing kind of construction coming on in Cork and Galway and Dublin and Limerick?
Little bits of construction. It's Cork, there's a new hotel going to get built shortly by Dalata. There are extensions happening. There are people looking at new hotels, certainly a couple of sites in Cork and Galway. Limerick would have been a city very hard hit by the recession, the hotel sector. A lot of hotels were built in 2006, but it's recovered quite strongly. The RevPAR key factor has increased by 19% there over the last 2.5 years on average per annum, and that's the strongest growth in Ireland now virtually, but it's coming off a very low base.
And probably a bit less reliant on tourism, I guess, in Limerick. There's a lot of business down there now.
A lot of business there. Limerick has actually a diverse FDI sector. Shannon obviously is still an important route in for Americans, and the American market has been very strong, thankfully, for the Irish tourist sector.
In terms of kind of who's going to be there today, I mean, what are you looking out for at the conference? Obviously, you're going to be speaking at the investment conference, but presumably you'll have your sort of eyes peeled for who else is there. Yeah,
lots of hoteliers, investors, funders, and there's a diverse range of speakers from like Pat McCann in Dalata through to Kevin Toland at DAA speaking. So it's a very interesting conference.
Tom Barrett, Director of Savills Hotels and Leisure, thanks for coming in. Coming up after the break, we'll have the latest with Paul Somerville on the markets.
Breakfast Business with Enterprise Ireland. Helping you plan for Brexit with our SME scorecard at prepareforbrexit.ie.